recognize before we have a good time and like get into the joyful part of this. We are in unceded Coast Salish land and in the middle of a couple of wars and a genocide. That's like the backdrop for tonight. And that's what there is to say about that for me. It's also why spaces like this feel so critically important right now. Why sharing joy and connection and art is like vital. So just thank you for being here to listen to stories in this very like old and traditional way and also like a brand new way in this like space that we're all living in right now. And please make more stories. If you're like sitting there having ideas, please make them a story. So I'm Katie. I'm the founder of Nonfiction for No Reason. I write essays. I started this thing kind of on a whim in March of 2023 when EWP came here. And then it was really good. And so then I just kept doing it because it just feels really good. And I think now this is our 10th event. I think we've had about 80 readers on stage at this point, so something like 88 tonight. And we've been to, the third event was in Portland, which was amazing. I sort of snuck in and built it around Tin House in July last summer, and that was incredible. And like side note, I met Jessica Lynn, who read at that event, and now we're co-curating a Nonfiction for No Reason in September in New York together. So like the whole purpose of this thing is just to like grow and have this be the beginning of new relationships for you and for everybody in the room. Then we went to LA in January, and that was super weird, and I'm not going to get into it, but it was very good. And then we were in Tokyo in March, which was wacko and amazing and incredible, and we're trying to keep it going there too. They need it. So this thing has a life of its own, and I'm just like grateful to have birthed it or whatever. I don't know. I don't have kids. I don't think I'm gonna. So it's nice. But Seattle's our home and the base and where we will stay forever and always. And we have another couple of events in Seattle in October and November. And I have somebody trying to talk me into something in July, like a mini. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that in Rainier Beach.
Questions are gross and violent. I'm like, actually, it's just you. So here's a little bit of a lighter toned thing. It features an Instagram reel that I saw of a white man speaking Ilocano, so here we go. This is called @KuyaJakeTaylor, which is a real Instagram if you are curious. There is this white man @KuyaJakeTaylor on Instagram married to a Filipino woman who looks like my mom. She's Ilocano like my mom, points her lips and taps with her food-slicked finger on a bowl of suka, a plate. She asks with no words and a full mouth of rice, "What's this?" "Suka," he says. The next word he utters means spicy vinegar. I don't write it down here because I can't remember the word. I won't pronounce it to you because my mother is a chicken stretching her neck, widening her eyes in my eyes, telling me to be quiet in my teeth. I try to pronounce it because just a few hours ago my lover came into my mouth and together we killed the priest. It wasn't even role play. We laugh when we feel the Spanish roll in the graves. Plato, he continues in Spanish. His wife chirps like a bird whose name I don't know because I don't live in Texas. She continues to eat. What's the word for when you eat with your hands? She takes a mound of spicy vinegar, rice, and beef stick and chews it down. He repeats the question in Tagalog, then in Ilocano. Here's this man speaking Ilocano, praised for his fluency. Here I am, speaking English more fluently than Jake. I want to pin his tongue to a dartboard and invite all my friends with good aim. Then I'll find all the overseas maids and pay them in their day rate. Together, we'll get elbow deep into his mouth, scrubbing the taste buds off with papaya bleach soap. We'll learn what language he learned to help him remember English is his only language. Make it whiter than he already is, this man who has relocated his beloved Tagalog-speaking American wife to Texas. A white man gets to be a kuya, gets to be speaking Ilocano in Texas. He has 50,000 likes for eating rice 3 times a day. Wow. Talaga. Laughing emoji, heart eyes in the comments. I am floating in a bifurcated dimension of reels. In a purgatory of 30-second reels, I see him in his before he was married to an Ilocano wife, after he was married to her. So, before, he picks up the kid's toys with his hands, hinging at the hips, hurting his back. After, he picks up the blanket and the kid's toys with his feet, like a monkey. Look at that dexterity. Okay, I'm gonna skip through a little bit. So I do that a couple times.
But here's the first piece. Looking at the shape of the pages, the lines on the paper, the tilt of my mother's light handwriting, I could remember what it felt like to watch her. I could remember one particular sky blue and grass green day just after we'd moved to town. She sat on a low lawn chair, balancing a writing pad on her thighs. I orbited. I was shirtless, wearing jeans that had belonged first to a boy, and though I had learned by then that I was a girl, I was okay with it, only when I could imagine that girl meant omnidirectional, wild potential, something like flame. The particular paper, the particular pen, were not routinely available to me. They belonged to her only, as almost nothing did. They lived in the drawer below the telephone, conductor of messages, bringer of news, conduit of exciting voices. It was new to have a telephone and to live in a house near stores and neighbors and not in a camp near men and a mine. It was new and I was afraid it wouldn't last. In this new life, I wanted to proclaim, to make words, to say and say. My father was somewhere working and had been somewhere working forever. He was working at the mine whose location and distance I wasn't certain of. The mine was in fact not one but many. I only knew that it was the most important thing, the reason for leaving places I wanted to stay or staying places I wanted to leave. If he was coming home on Friday night, from the lilac-scented dawn of Friday, events would coalesce around his arrival. Cleaning up, baking bread, getting the boring things done before he was here. His arrival would be an event. My mom, me, the baby, the dog, would listen for the rush of his big approaching engine, gather on the porch, and watch the new used root beer-colored pickup pull up into the shade of the locust trees that I found painfully tall and graceful, like green celebrities in a warm sky. He would push open the heavy door and step down from the cab happy. After he left again, all the waves made by his presence slowly diminished back into the large body of undifferentiated time. On this day that I remember, my mother was writing a letter, and that was the solid thing, an activity generated by my mother's own wish to do it. It was something she did by herself, for her own reasons, less often now since we moved down to town from the tents and trailers at the mine site. When she wrote, she seemed hard and away, looking for words. Maybe imagining, maybe depicting, maybe confiding things that couldn't be told to me. When can I write, I would ask, stepping in and out of the house's shadow.
It's so great to be here. And can we also give a shout out and a hand to Katie for having this amazing event for writers like me and the other writers who came before me. By the way, tough acts to follow. For us to have an opportunity to share our work. My memoir, Matt and Me, had its 2-year anniversary just yesterday. I've been on speaking tour the past couple years, and I swear if I have to read anything else out of my memoir, I'll just probably just lay down and die right now. So I'm not going to read anything out of my memoir. I'm actually going to read something new. I'm going to read an excerpt from an essay that I'm working on actively right now. It'll come out, it's an anthology of queer travel writing that'll come out in 2025. And so I just decided, it's a work in progress, but I thought, what the heck, let me be vulnerable and read something that's not quite polished. The working title is The Return. From high above, 10,000 feet and approaching Bojidong Airport in Cambodia's capital, Phnom Penh, the Dalai Sap River is a liver on the landscape, splayed in the center of a nation that has struggled to find its calm. It's ringed by lines of green land, tropical trees, and shrubs that camouflage busy fishing villages thronged along its banks. Apart from its sheer size, it's enormous whether you're looking from high up or up front straight on. It stands out for a simple, stunning stunt that only 4 rivers in the world pull off. It reverses course each year, going the opposite way it came, which is a matter of hydraulics and nature's will, but for a queer writer returning to her beginnings, it's a matter of meaning. It's here, and only here, the place where I come from, where I meet myself most fully in the landscape. The children's book author, Dr. Nadine Brooks, says, books are a window that allow us a glimpse into the lives and experiences of others, or a mirror reflecting parts of ourselves back to us. I think it's places. Places do that too. We travel to see ourselves from the outside.
An RESP fellow. She lives in New York City. Please welcome Nina. Okay, I tried to be cute, but I'm not used to being this tall, so hopefully it works. Thank you so much for that and for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm actually on the very beginning of my book tour for Love is a Burning Thing. And I'm feeling the pressure of sort of sitting in bookstores and sounding eloquent, and I mean, hopefully I'll still sound, legible here, but it's so nice to be in a space and remember, kind of like why I do this, and it's to be with writers and readers and lovers of literature, so thanks for having me. I'm still kind of playing around with like how to excerpt this book for like sections that are understandable in short form. So, and I've been reading a little bit more from the beginning and feeling like, oh, I have to give all this context. But I thought this group seems like they could rock with whatever. So I'm gonna try something from the end, or closer to the end. And I think all you really need to know is all you need to know. This is a story about 2 fires that my mother started, and my realization after she died that I believe her New Age spiritual beliefs were masking mental illness. The question of the book was initially for me kind of like, was it mysticism? Did she have access to the astral plane and all these things? Or was it mental illness? And I think I landed on both and or all of the above. So this comes from sort of the end of the book after she has what I believe to be, and I'm saying all this sort of speculatively because she died in 2005 and I can't, retroactively diagnose her, and that's not my job. But she had what I believe to be a psychotic break and lit her house on fire. And in that moment, instead of and then she kind of came to and ran outside and called the fire department and realized, I guess, what she had done. So the fire department came, but instead of being kind of offered treatment or care, she was put into a squad car and taken to the county jail, where she was booked on charges of felony arson and was in there for 3 months, etc. So that's, I guess, what you need to know for this section. I just realized I was going to read something for the back. Anyway, okay, this will be short. In one of Mom's letters to me from jail, on coffee-stained paper with thick purple marker, she wrote of the women in her cell block. During weekly craft sessions, they made paper flowers with polydent and turned toilet paper inserts into hair rollers. Most were in on petty drugs and money crimes, she said, while the real criminals, politicians and DAs, ran free. This is her talking. I mean, she's not wrong. It's quite a life experience, all right, she wrote. Everybody shares and cares, and I think that's interesting. I've done about 5 tarot readings for the women, just using regular playing cards. I think they've gone well and been helpful. I imagine her holding court in the common room of cell block D. No silk scarves to pretty up the industrial plastic tables, no candles to set the mood for ritual. There, just as she had in the Michigan burn unit, there's another fire, she self-immolated and was in the burn unit for months. So it's just like a lot of context to give, so you should just read the book. That's a soft sell. There, just as she had in the Michigan burn unit 33 years earlier, she found a way to render the space sacred, to make an offering, to move beyond circumstance, if not in body, then in spirit. In that letter, and others like it, I recognized a ghost of a mother I'd known, one at ease in smoky pool halls, who spoke freely with people the rest of the world had written off. An unlikely shapeshifter, she understood the disordered mind. In the cosmic terrain, she and her friends had more agency. If they were working out their karma or moving through Spangler's New Age levels or Maharishi's 7 states of consciousness, they didn't have to tussle directly with the systems, family, political, or otherwise, that had failed them. Seeing themselves as light workers lent gravitas and power to parts of their identities that capitalist America had tossed aside. Before, I'd seen this cynically or as a cop-out, but in my own spiraling, I was starting to understand that by refusing to align herself with any one source, she kind of had like a syncretic, collaged spirituality. I was starting to understand that by refusing to align herself with any one source, such as the omniscient God of her Catholic upbringing, or even the diffuse ascended masters of the I Am movement, she decentralized the locus of wisdom, making it mobile and flexible versus static, accumulative instead of all-knowing. She did not have to belong to a group, to follow the rules, or even stay in one place. She could hit the road at will, become her own traveling congregation, do whatever she needed to keep her family together, a freedom not afforded to generations of women before her. It was true that she had never modeled careerism or shown me how to organize a home or generate wealth or even wash my face before bed at night. But I began to understand that through small moments of reclamation and improvisation, she had demonstrated what she thought most important: the right to live a self-determined life. There had been a survival logic to her spiritual dabbling, an act of reclaiming power, one that could be read in some lights as appropriative, in others feminist, even queer. Maybe all those years in defining her illness via spiritual imagery, she was claiming her vessel, rendering it, as Esme Wei-Ching writes, fine and good. While my father's spiritual practice demanded devotion, my mother's practice demonstrated that deconstruction was an active part of belief, that faith was an action, not an endpoint.
where they're throwing jailhouse tarot in a county-issued jumpsuit.
Whole sort of like fundraiser bonanza later in the summer. So this is like a first little taste. And the goal is $1,000 for the night. And I think the last I checked, let's see, we are at 700. That's cute. I like that.
That's cute.
So let's see if we can do it. I don't know, like no pressure. Like time's not.
Pressure.
But like a little bit of pressure, but like, you know, pressure, but no pressure. Okay. I also want to say thank you specifically to Spencer from Third Place Books for being here and selling books and responding on the emails. I am relentless. Most people in this room know that at this point. I will email you for sure. Okay. Next up, we have Taranath. She is wearing a matching outfit with Amy, which is the most incredible thing I've seen. Did you guys make those?
No.
You went shopping together?
Sort of. Online shopping during the pandemic.
Okay. So Amy actually turned me on to Anu. Her book is on the table. I'm really excited to hear her for the first time. She's taught about global issues raised young, so please welcome Anu to the stage.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, check out our matching outfits.
Okay.
They're the coolest. We bought it in the pandemic. We went to a park because we weren't really chatting with people too close. And so we kind of threw the packet to one another, opened it for the big reveal and said, one day we're going to wear it together at some event, and today's the day. So thanks for that nice introduction to me. I'm going to read to you a little bit from my book, Beyond Guilt Trips. And in addition to some of what Katie shared, I do a lot with international education, study abroad. I've been teaching at UW, this is now 24 years, and I shepherd UW students and various other kinds of travelers to different parts of our globe. And you know, let's be real, we live in an unequal world. And traveling outside of our framework puts us into contact with not only people who are unlike us. Traveling doesn't mean just going far, it can mean going anywhere, close by. And I work with a lot of people around some of the complexities of travel, far or near, and how that makes us feel. And what do we do with that? And what does navigating inequity look like and mean? So this story introduces the book, and hope you like it. I brought my 4.5-year-old daughter to Third Place Books to hear a gospel choir perform. It is Sunday afternoon. I lead through the crowd, her little hand grasping my shirt as a leash. We find a small opening near the front of the stage. My daughter and I sway to the sweet rhythms. From our vantage point, the choir members are comprised mostly of Black women, a few Black men, 2 or 3 Asian American women, and 2 or 3 white women. Robust and energetic, the choir director rouses her singers and audience alike with energy and poise. My daughter dances with the other children nearby for a while, and then climbs back into my arms and focuses on the audience. The 70 or so people around us seem to be all white men and women, mostly elders with various health aids besides them, like canes, wheelchairs, and oxygen tanks. They smile and tap their feet. I find myself wondering if so many older white people have come to Third Place Commons specifically to hear the gospel choir, or if they are the regular Sunday crowd, perhaps browsing the bookstore and appreciating whichever live music group has come to perform. I slowly pan the audience to try to discern individual features and attributes of the people all around me, a strategy I use to stay present and aware of the different kinds of differences that might be around me, even when there isn't much racial diversity. Suddenly, my kid shimmies down my body and runs into the audience. I'm surprised at her energy and am curious as to who or what has compelled this sudden burst. Has she recognized somebody we know? Our neighbor, perhaps? I crane my head to look at who or what she has found. And then I see. A black man and woman have just entered and found seats on the other side of the room. Their blackness is significant because they are the only other visible people of color in the room, besides the choir members, my daughter, and I. My daughter stands right smack in front of them with a big smile on her face. I think about calling her name to wave her back, unsure why she has parked herself in front of them and worried if she's bothering them. The couple, though, seem not to mind her presence. Though they are unfamiliar to us, my kid is easy and comfortable with them, as if she's known them her whole life.
If you are wondering how to be involved in helping it prosper, one thing you can do is just give a little bit every month. That's one way you can support Kim's work. Anyone else in the room who does that? Want to raise their hand?
Yeah.
A little bit every month? That happen. Now I get to be the one with the theater of the street behind me. Anyone else see the person in the red heels go this way and then go that way? I'm going to be reading from this memoir. It's a daybook of a grief year. My mom died slowly and then really quickly from complications of ALS in 2006, May of 2006. You'll hear dates and months and days sort of marking the passage of that time. She died in May 2016. Queerness and Catholicism, chosen and unchosen family. You'll hear a lot of names come and go. I'll try to peg them when, place them when they come. Meaning making after loss. I encourage everyone here to buy lots of books. Ever since small press distribution collapsed and took a lot of inventory with it, a lot of little presses are hurting. One way you can support that work is by spending money. I'll read for about 7 minutes from this book. You just weren't quite ready to be born, she told me every year over birthday carrot cake and champagne, but they made you. In a rushed prenatal exam, a nurse broke her water, and my birth had to be induced. I was borderline hypoxic, an Apgar 3, and each contraction from the Pitocin, she said, felt like getting hit by a truck. As she groaned on her hands and knees, I never felt more like a mammal in my life, she said. Every time I would scream, I thought, we are sentient mammals. I just can't believe that we are sentient mammals. I found a photo of her in labor with me. Same pained concentration, brows up, lips pursed, eyes shut. Her face wore when the mortuary staff wheeled her from the cold room so we could play a Swan Silvertones record, and I cut her hair. February 7th. Drizzly, late winter dark, 3 months before she died. She called me late for a ride to the grocery store. Fields, who was my partner at the time, took over putting Finn to bed. I drove the half mile to meet her at her door. She barely spoke the whole trip. Subdued, hot-eyed, silent on the dark drive there and back. I helped her back up to her place with her bags, and she suddenly pushed open some barrier in herself. She was haunted, she told me, by her last trip to clean her mom's cottage, her first since Grandma's second husband had died. Seeing her mom drifty, forgetful, angry, day-drinking gin, with a pile of unopened mail from her second husband's estate, telling her she'd need to move out within a month. My mom set herself down on her folding couch, head still up, bird alert, blazing hot, still talking. I shelled her canned beans, kombu, masa, and dry pasta, then sat across from her, listening ears on. It was clamped down dark outside, her west windows full of the rain-smeared chromium light of warehouses and rail depots. And it wasn't just her mom, she said. She'd also lost her friendship with Kay, the gentle Jesuit. A decade before, she'd met Kay in Bolivia. She was studying Spanish at a Catholic foster care and indigenous legal aid center. And he was there doing civil rights work for political prisoners of Carlos Mesa's government. When she came back to Seattle and he to New York, they kept in touch until she told me this month, when she'd mistaken his words of prayerful care in a letter for a love note and had poured out her longing heart to him. His reply, not unkind but absolutely firm, set boundaries on their future communication. She cursed him, burnt the green end off their friendship, and permanently severed correspondence. And it wasn't just Kay, she said. She was repulsed that the Pope had that week reaffirmed, this is in 2016, had reaffirmed the finality of the church's ban on women in the priesthood. This narrow, controlling bullshit, this same bullshit, as if the only reason God came to earth was to look after male mediocrity. And it wasn't just the Pope, she said. Rain softer, her body still rigid. She remembered.
Okay, so I want to start my set with 2 audience questions, and you will need to use your hands, so if you're drinking, figure it out. First question, by show of thumbs, up or down, how are you feeling right now? Shit, I'm feeling okay. Okay, second question, I have 3 pieces that I will present to you. Only one of them is light, so just prepare yourself for that. Do you want to start with the light or end with the light? And so this means start, and this means finish. I just learned this today for no reason, so I wanted to teach y'all. Start or finish? Finish, okay. So a little bit of context. These are all things that were written during this thing called the Grind Challenge, which is, yeah, you've heard of it. So the Grind Challenge is just to write or revise one new thing every day for a month. And it sounds cute, but it's not. You will turn out some nuggets and then also some what the fuck is this. So these are all from February. This year has been, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's been a year, and it's May. But February was really the pits. So the first thing I'm gonna read is dealing with fibroids, which, if you don't know what those are often benign tumors that affect about 70% of women, 80% of Black women. And they are really understudied, and so people are really maltreated, and the course of treatment for them is often surgery that leads to a lot of other complications. So first, this is about fibroids, and then also I have another piece that's about the healthcare system. Okay. February 7th. I lay on the table, hands tucked to my chest because there's no better way to hold them. Scoot a little closer to me on the table, the technician says, before asking me to bare my abdomen. She puts the warm gel on my stomach and immediately lands on the bulge of flesh. That's the big one, I say. She doesn't hear me. I look around the room as she takes digital images and land on the mounted TV on the wall. The screen is black, but I am watching the memory of the last hospital room I was in. The room is much smaller there, overflowing with visitors and family, enclosed around beloved whose pretty eyes weren't his anymore. The TV on the wall, the only thing we can collectively bear between the goodbyes and forehead kisses. Beloved is fighting to go home. And we want him to know that it's okay. That we will be okay whether we know that to be true or not. We want to be there with him, but we can't fully be there with him. We surrender to the programmed squabbles of divorce court and paternity tests, needing to be saved, needing to cast our eyes upon a redeemer, to quiet the raucousness of hearts being ripped apart. The DNA results are in, and you are. I am back on the table, hoping the tech won't notice my tense abdomen. It's the only way I know to stop the sob from escaping the pit of my stomach. Tears succumb to gravity, streaming toward the back of my head. My mask absorbs all the water it can. All I can manage is to keep breathing as the black screen taunts me from on high. Okay, and then the next thing that I want to share is a video piece. Timothy, who's in, I don't think we'll be carrying the kids, so that's what this is about. I am of the age where everyone inquires about my womb as though they could inhabit it. Maybe it is the solution to the housing crisis. Maybe I should sublet it, share it, evict, then share it again. I could probably list it on Zillow and call it performance art or something. List it with all the other plots of land that used to be so alive back when such and such did so and so. Yeah, I could do that. Make memories with this womb until the day of its eminent domain. Until the asking will only be a formality. Thanks.
We're so glad you are here and you belong here. And this place is a magical home for creative people and community. And so I hope you have that feeling in this space because it is real and it is true. And I'm so glad that everyone is here. Just like to further comment on the outfits with Anu. Anu is one of those people, I met Anu in 2001 when I was an undergrad at UW. And I did not like her at first. I was like, oh, this person never smiles, and I know she's like too smart, and I don't know what's happening, and I was freaked out. But clearly things changed over really quickly by the end of the quarter. And she's one of those people that you meet in your life who like everything changes. Everything, your life takes a completely different direction. So I'm so excited to be reading here with Anu tonight. Okay, I have some slides, and I'm going to start reading. In 2018, my dad, older brother, here we are, younger sister, nephew, and I went to Japan for the first time. My sister is also here, which means there's someone who could possibly contest parts of this story, and I just want to say on the record that my version is true. You don't need to ask her about any of this. We crammed a lot of activity into 2 short weeks, including a 4-day trip to Okinawa to try to find the area where my dad's family lived before they immigrated to Hawaii in the early 1900s. We found the US military base where their village probably used to be, and the Buddhist temple they might have gone to if they had been practicing Buddhists. It's hard to feel a sense of belonging while staring, or a sense of homecoming while staring at American flags and fighter jets through a chain link fence. What did feel like home, though, was the pork. Here is all the pork I ate in Okinawa. 1. The first pork I ate was 2 thick slabs of pork belly and a clear broth with chewy golden noodles, white ovals of fish cake, a generous sprinkling of green onion, and pickled ginger on the side. The striations in the meat fascinated me. They went dusty rose, cream-colored fat, salmon pink, dusty rose, cream-colored fat, salmon pink. The final layer was skin, not something braised and crispy, but the kind of skin that makes you remember your high school biology lessons on the dermal layers. Epidermis, dermis, hypodermis, they were all there. I had to have a little chat with my coddled American palate, but it didn't take long to convince her to go for it. Bite into that meat fat skin like it's no big deal. Like you're a real Okinawan, like you love it. And I loved it. It was one of those bites that makes you light up because your body knows it's eating something more than just food. You know who else loved it? Japan, who annexed Okinawa in 1879. They were like, ooh, the pork here is so good. The beaches are so beautiful. The location is so advantageous for trade. Independent Ryukyu Kingdom? Nah, you're Japanese now. Don't worry, you totally won't become the poorest prefecture in Japan. We totally won't let a quarter of your population violently die in a world war. You totally won't lose huge swaths of land to 30 foreign military bases in an area of land as large as New York, the Manhattan area. 2. The second time I ate pork in Okinawa was for dinner the same day as the first time I ate pork in Okinawa. We'd gone hiking, which involved getting lost on the way to the trailhead because one of us wanted to follow Google Maps instead of the signs on the side of the road that said, Hiji Falls, this way. So here's the map. Down at the bottom, the happy campers, that's where we wanted to go. That's where the signs were pointing. The top of the map, the top of the waterfall, is where Google Maps was trying to direct our rented minivan. We were 10 days into our trip, and at this point, at any given time, one of us had a headache. One of us was being a total ass. One of us was being an idiot. One of us was being weird, and one of us was staying calm and level-headed, and holding it together with grace and aplomb. That being said, we were all exhausted, and none of us is good at making decisions. As a direct result, my second pork was at Mega Don Quixote, affectionately nicknamed Donkey. If you're not familiar with Donkey, picture Walmart if Walmart were Japanese and not shitty. There was a ramen restaurant in front of the store across from the shop where they sold puppies. Whatever you're thinking, it's racist, just want to say that. This time, it was skinnier golden noodles, 2 slabs of pork